For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Friday, January 19th, 2018. I'm Errol Lewis. With the federal government shutdown looming at midnight, let's get the very latest on a chaotic day in the nation's capital from our Washington, D.C. reporter, Samantha-Jo Roth. What is the latest, Samantha-Jo?
Well, Errol, we are hearing that congressional leaders are huddling in closed-door meetings, but not a lot of action on the Senate floor. A lot of confusion here as to happening and when. Now, earlier today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wrapped up a meeting at the White House with President Trump, but returned to Capitol Hill with no imminent deal to avert a shutdown. Now, Senator Schumer came out and said they made some progress, but still have some disagreements on the budget. However, he says discussions are still continuing. Now, the House passed a measure last night to keep the government funded for an additional 4 weeks. It includes funding for the Children's Health Insurance program for an additional 6 years. Now it's the Senate's turn to vote on this, and if they pass it, the government stays open over the weekend. But if they don't, it doesn't. Now, senators may vote tonight to keep the government open for just a few days as they continue bargaining and negotiating. At the center of this for Democrats is protecting young undocumented immigrants who were brought to this country as children. Now, they want to protect them, but that program doesn't expire until March. And Republicans argue that they want to focus on the budget first and then zero in on DACA in the coming weeks before that March 5th deadline.
We had a long and detailed meeting. We discussed all of the major outstanding issues. We made some progress, but we still have a good number of disagreements. The discussions will continue.
There's no DACA bill to vote on, and there's no emergency in terms of the timing on DACA. DACA does not expire until March 5th. So there's absolutely no reason to tie these two things together right now.
Now, we are expecting that the Senate will vote to advance that plan that the House voted on yesterday. However, at this point, they do not have the 60 votes that they need to get this over the finish line. However, there are about 3 Democrats who say that they will vote to support it, but that is certainly not enough. Some Democratic senators, like Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, says he's confident that they can come to a deal. However, they need days and not hours. Errol?
Okay, so now, Samantha-Jo, worst case scenario, there are a lot of federal facilities, a lot of federal workers here in the New York area. If there is a shutdown, what stays open and what shuts down?
Well, Errol, that's a great question. So what will happen over the weekend, what we could see is a lot of national parks could shut down. There are a few that could remain open, but the ones with staff that would need to be on hand, they would need to shut down. Now, next, the heavy lift here would be on Monday for those federal workers who would normally be going to work. About 800,000 federal workers could be furloughed. Now, there are some essential workers. Those are people like TSA agents, police officers. They would continue to work. However, they would not be paid for their time. A lot of times when this happens in Congress, they are retroactively paid, but it's not a great thing that's happening here. As for your mail, you may be getting your mail Saturday, but it could be later in the week if the government still isn't open, Errol.
Okay, and then on the question of whether or not the Republicans might, in the Senate, bring this to the floor, even not knowing that they have the votes, that might be an attempt to, embarrass the Democrats and make them go public with their opposition to the bill?
Absolutely. If they bring this to the floor, a lot of times in Washington, what you see here is you don't see Republican leadership bring something to the floor that they don't have the confidence that they can pass. But in this situation here, what they would want to do is show these Democrats voting no on the record. And many of these Democrats that are up in the air right now, they are from red-leaning states. States like North Dakota, West Virginia. A lot of those constituents in those states may not be very impressed when they hear that their senators shut down the government to stand up for DACA recipients. So, of course, we're going to keep an eye on all of this for you. Some complicated math here, but we're going to see what happens